start the evening. Hello, yes, and welcome to CodeZone episode 10. 10 episodes. It's almost 2.5 months we've been doing this every week. And I should apologise to those who tuned in yesterday and were disappointed not to see me. I had to delay a few things, and we'll talk about that later. Just having the obligatory hot Vimto again. So who have we got here? We've got Morris, we've got Alex, we've got Holy Seraphim, and we've got Magetsub, and all of those that claim to be first, you're all very wrong, because this is the truth, as you can see on the screen right now. So I want us all to appreciate Danny Cron's excellence at being first. He wanted to make sure that everybody realised that he was first, and he's been hacking the Discord chats using some sort of IRC client he's written himself, I think, to make sure that he was first in the chats. In fact, he was so first, I think he was first about 20 days ago. So there we go. Danny Cron was first. It is indisputable. And now we've got that out of the way, we need to think about what we're going to be doing tonight. And the stream is curiously called Elephants. I'll have another sip of this. My cough hasn't gone away, so still doing this. Let me know if the voice levels are okay. I've got the gain up a little bit higher than usual so I can have the microphone not quite so much in my face. Fossgutten. Hello, yes, we just met you on the Discord. Oh, and by the way, if any of you are chatting on the Discord server, there is now the CodeZone chat. That's the chat I've got open to see sort of pictures and things being posted there. Good. Right, well, tonight is going to be a bit different because we're going to look at Space Thing, but from a slightly different perspective, I think. We left it. Where did we leave it last week? Because I haven't touched the code at all. I've been quite busy doing other things. So let's just run it and see if everything still works. It looks like the sun. Oh, and there's something sort of exploding in the middle. If we find our ship, what was it? Yeah, we put our ship here, didn't we? And we were playing around with trying to sort out thrusters. And we ended up creating this sort of never-ending growing blob, which eventually did actually consume the entire solar system. I left it running for a few hours. So we've started a competition to beat Danny to being first on these shows. Hi. Oh, Tarry's here. Hello. And Squirrel1230 and Go Gruffler. Hello. It's not a name I recognise. Apologies if you have been here before. But the first elephant I want to address is the elephant in the room. And that is something that has plagued us on every single episode of Space Thing so far. And no, it's not my cough. It's the... Well, we don't know what scale anything should be. Thank you, Twister. Yes. Yes, you may have noticed I had it all cut off, so it was getting quite annoying. So it's gone. It's gone for the chop. Josh, hello. Vito, hello. Hermes, hello. And Megarev is here. Megarev has just earned himself a new emoji in the Discord server, so good for him. Yeah, it's pretty short actually. It's like I've almost got nothing at all. Certainly when I'm brushing it or washing it, it does feel very different. As you can see now, the left it for a few minutes. The sort of growing thruster bloom here is sort of consuming everything, like some giant omnipotent alien force in our solar system with clipping. Well, what I was saying was the scaling isn't quite there. It's also proving to be a problem. We don't know what scale we want to play the game at. It's deciding on the scale, it's deciding how the thruster should work, it's deciding on how the stars should work, it's deciding on absolutely everything. And I think we've got to the point where I've prototyped sort of the look of it enough. I appreciate now I can draw something that resembles a reasonably pretty solar system and we can pan around it, but what are we going to do with it? Morris thinks the scale should be astronomical. Oh dear. BSE boy, hello. I can never pronounce that when I see it on the Discord either. The Chazeg, hello. You're only here for the elephants, by the way. Well, we've got 2 elephants to discuss, and we're discussing the first one now. And so what I wanted to do, I put a little chat up in the Discord server before. Nobody took it seriously, but I wanted tonight to be a little bit more of a creative stream than a coding stream. In terms of, I want to actually sort of decide what the game is going to be. And the reason being is this scale issue is stopping us, right? It's slowing us down. We've no idea how fast things should move. We've no idea how big things should be relative to each other. And the reason we've no idea is because we don't know what we're going to be doing. We don't know what's the purpose of anything. And it made me have a think. So I commute to work each day, and in the car I often think about things like this. And it dawned on me how much we're sort of emulating the game Elite Dangerous. If you've not played Elite Dangerous, big 3D multiplayer space shoot 'em up, sort of space opera epic thing. And there's a lot of reasons there's parallels to what we're doing and that sort of atmosphere that we're in that game. But they made lots of interesting design choices, which I always thought were quite curious. For example, you can fly around a solar system very, very quickly, but when you get within the proximity of planets, things start to slow down. And they make up the excuse that it's because your engine is affected by the gravity of the body, and therefore it's not as efficient and all that. So it's good old game design stuff. But in reality, it's to make the game interesting. And it's to make it interesting because let's say we are our little ship here and we're absolutely pelting across the solar system at something like half the speed of light. Then if anybody is stopped and we're flying past them, they're literally just going to go zip across the screen. It's not very fun. So the same would happen with planets. You get to a point where you're going so quickly. I can't remember if we put speed caps on these things. But you end up accelerating so much, and without a cap, eventually, you're going so fast that there's no way you can sensibly stop in time for the objects. Now, in 3D, that kind of works, because you can see what's coming up ahead of you. But in 2D, it doesn't work very well at all, because you kind of want to see the ship. And there we go, so we would have shot completely past the planet, no good to anybody. And we weren't even going at a full speed. In fact, no idea what speed we were going at, because we've got no spatial scales or anything like that going on. So it dawned on me that's exactly why Elite Dangerous uses this sort of faux planetary mass thing to slow the crafts down. It's one, to stop you from crashing into them too frequently, but also to actually make it interesting, that you can approach these things and it gives them a sense of being massive, that you're going past this thing, everything's slowing down, so everything becomes big and fills the screen, and it's good fun. Let me just have a quick glance at some of the chats. Triptanol. Yeah, the effect could be used to create some sort of casual gas cloud. That's a good idea. And we did sort of think somebody posted some nebula code or something like that on the Discord. I remember seeing that. Oh, hi, Speedy. Speedy's here, so we know the rules now. Everybody's got to say hi, Speedy. But people are doing it already. Excellent. That's brilliant. Good. Speedy, we will make you a meme yet. Don't worry. So, labouring this point, scale is a problem. And it's a problem that we kind of have to solve before we continue, because I want to start actually developing the game for this. And that's what I thought we would talk about tonight, is what is the game and what is the point? And it's community involved. I'm going to let you guys sort of help me decide. I'm not going to say you're going to have full control over this, but I'm certainly interested in sort of creative feedback of where we're going to go with it. There's a lot of reasons why this isn't a suitable top-down space shooting game. So there's all sorts of things going on here because of the scale, we can't anticipate anything. It's just you want to play at this sort of level for the ships, but then the rest of the solar system is so huge. There's no point in playing at this level. You don't see anything unless, and there's sort of 2 types of game that you can implement here. Yeah, so there we go, BSE boy. Is it a case that we want to go down the route of sort of realistic flight navigation for the player? And I kind of feel no. And the reason I feel no is it's not that interesting in 2D. It's great in 3D. It's great if you can see what's coming up in front of you, and I don't want to resort to having a little mini map on the screen. I think that's weak. If games that rely on a mini map for you to know where you are, that's poor design, I feel. So I would rather we maybe change tactic a little bit. There's been no set intention of what this game is going to be. At the moment, we're just sort of prototyping the rendering of a solar system, and I like the rendering of the solar system. You see, there's another. Have edge arrows. Even if you had edge arrows, if a craft is stopped somewhere in space, they will fly past you so quickly. You won't be able to even... They may exist on the screen for 2 or 3 frames, if that. So you've got no hope of stopping sensibly. Even if you have some sort of indication saying craft approaching, and it artificially slows you down. That's probably more of a hindrance than anything else, because if the world became populated with objects, actually navigating between them starts becoming the focus of what you've got to do. And I just don't think people are that interested in navigating in 2D space like that. Yes, Chalmers, we're talking about elephants in the room. And the first elephant in the room that we're dealing with is this important one we've tried to sort out every week, scale. And so, I am going to now blind you all, and we'll have a little talk about what we might think is a sensible game. And we've got the choice of sort of an action type game where you're flying your ship around. We've got to shoot other ships. Let's have a ship like this, which is shooting back. And it's all very sort of action-oriented. And you've got to go to planets. Let's have a planet here. And you've got to dock with things on the planet to refuel your ship or deliver goods or some sort of mission or something like that. So, typical standard action game. Your craft would probably have a health bar of some description. Yeah, that's how you spell health. And you'd be able to equip it with weapons, and it's basically elite, but looking from a top perspective. And maybe attached to that, there's some sort of trading system and some sort of economy. And it very much becomes an elite type clone. What this would require, though, is that we really minimise the scale of our solar system. Because one of the things I'm not interested in doing, I don't want to do, is like this huge galaxy simulation where your solar system is really just identified by a small cluster of planets. You spend 10 seconds in it and then you hop on to some other one. I'm not interested in that. I'd rather handcraft an intricate solar system with lots of interesting features in and let the player explore it to some level of depth, rather than this sort of very shallow experience, which I find the Elite Dangerous games to actually be. That's not to say that they're bad games, but from a pure gameplay point of view, you don't do anything in these systems. You visit them, you scan them, you look at some of the statistics, and you see if you can profit, and then you move on. Once you've visited a location, you've never a reason to go back to it, other than to find, go on a repeat trade run or something like that. So this is sort of option 1, so the action approach. And I would say that in this sort of scale that the ships don't move very fast and everything is much smaller. So you sort of confine the overall playing field. And we'll decide on sort of a height which looks sensible, and everything else is sort of background eye candy, but it's all played out on this sort of living, breathing system. And the player is in control of a single ship. There's a reason I don't like that, and that's the look ahead problem, which we've kind of discussed already tonight. But if you're looking on the screen, the player has almost no field of view. Right, so even if you move the player craft, I've got to make sure I'm drawing in places you can see. Even if you move the player craft to, say, the bottom corner, if you're travelling in that direction, you still can't see anything. So you can't see what's coming up. I don't want to rely on mini maps sort of populating the screen. I don't particularly want big artificial arrows telling you there's stuff here. I just feel that that's all very lazy. It's not. so what is my point, right? So you fly around and you blast things in 2D and there's a variety of different weapons, and okay, you can put mines. That kind of game, I feel, isn't very difficult to make. don't get me wrong. It is difficult. It's certainly difficult to balance and make it fun, but it's not very difficult to make. Just a load of objects bouncing around this universe. We'll come up with some AI strategies. We'll have the player running around, and it's done. And it could easily maybe be extended to massively multiplayer style things as well. Is that interesting enough for me? Not really. Just have a quick glance. Maybe let everything fly slowly and implement a wormhole. Oh, just hang on. I'm getting a message in my ear. We need to let everybody know that Danicron was first tonight. Danicron was the first in the chat. So I'm just going to make sure that you're all aware that Danicron was the first in the chat tonight. A jump system wormhole thing. Well, again, if you're going to start having sort of wormhole jump systems, you're talking about huge maps, right? Is it useful to have a wormhole that starts in the same solar system as one that it ends? I kind of want the solar system to feel large, but not boring. So you don't want it to take, say, 2 hours to fly from one end of the solar system to the other. But I want the player to know that if they did try to do that, that they can. Sorry, Danicron. gonna keep hitting people with that. As soon as we start seeing different people turning up, then I'm going to let them know. So that's sort of the first approach. Now, the second approach, I must admit, is sort of the one that appeals to me more. But I want to try and get some feedback and see what people are interested in. So this approach is action-oriented. I don't think it's particularly difficult. But at the same time, other than flying around and shooting, basically it's asteroids with an inventory, there's not a great deal to it. So instead, how about option 2? And there may be other options as well. I'd like to feel your ideas in. And that is to do something I've not done on the YouTube channel before. And that's more of a... I guess at the moment it's kind of more of an RTOS... no, not RTOS, not a real-time operating system, is it? It's RTS versus simulation. And I did kind of mention this on the Discord server, and I think it was Danderstein that sort of hinted, well, you know, why not think of doing something that's sort of scale independent? Yeah, Ericsson, we're sort of looking at how we can handle this big problem with scale that we've got. Consider a future where we haven't broken the speed of light, haven't developed warp drive, or instant teleportation is the only way to get between planets in a solar system. Yeah, that's actually an interesting idea. So let's put this as we'll come back to idea 2 in a minute. Let's follow. Oh, hang on, I've got one of these weird things going on with OneNote. You don't get to see this in the video. Sometimes it locks up a little bit. There we go. I've got to press escape like 3 times and click, and then draw a few dots. It's still locked up. Ah. Ah, that was it. You have to right click. There we go. Right. So, okay, option 3. Option 3 is a bit like option 1, action, but let's say, okay, we've got a sun in the middle, and we've got some planets here, and planets with moons. And I guess what you're suggesting, Morris, is that everything happens in and around the sort of planet system, but somewhere in here there's like an interdimensional gateway, which could then go and link you to some other system. Is that right? Is that kind of what you're suggesting? Yeah, okay. So I'm used to chatting with Morris in sort of this instantaneous fashion. Not sort of looking blindly at the screen for about 10 seconds or so. So you would fly your ship into this sort of wormhole, and maybe you can choose at that point which other sector to go to in the system, and your ship comes out. And then everything happens local to that planet. That's certainly an approach. And it would, if we went down the action route, maybe that's a really sensible approach. It kind of negates the need for any of the dynamics that we've implemented. You know, we've got this sort of realistic, well, pseudo-realistic orbiting system going on. Because you would never leave really the, well, I guess you could leave the confines of the bubble, but if you sensibly wanted to get somewhere, you can't. We would have to think about all of the calculations involved in sort of sensible speed. So does that really solve our scale problem? Simply because I posted this. Did anybody see this wonderful tweet that somebody posted showing that between the Earth and the Moon, you can fit all the other planets in our solar system? Anybody see that? I never thought of that before. I hope it's accurate, because I think that's like a really wonderful thing. It's like almost as if it was designed, but we'll not go there. So basically what Morris wants is stargates. Stargates all over the place. I don't know. I feel that just all that does is turn our big system with a sun in the middle into pretty much the same systems, but instead they have a planet in the middle instead of the sun. Yeah, see, Terry, I'm hoping that maybe somebody can fact check it to see if it wasn't just like a hoax tweet, but the source did seem a little bit credible. Where did I put it? I put it on Simply Chat More. I wonder if it's disappeared since. Let me have a quick look. Because Simply Chat More doesn't go very quickly. I'm looking. Ah, there it is. Good. If I click on you. If I copy the image here. Okay, there we go. So that was the image that was posted, with Earth here and Moon over here. And I just thought that really triggered my imagination. I thought that's a really wonderful thing. It does kind of make you think of the scale, firstly, of how small the planets are, even though we think that they're massive. I hope it's accurate. We need somebody like Ericsson to just make sure and double check all that for us. Yeah, I thought that anyway. That was interesting. So, okay, so stargates between sort of bubbles of planet. Hang on, I just need to put the CodeZone chat back on. Nobody's chatting in it, but just in case. So, possible. Okay, that's an option. I'm not saying we pick a particular thing tonight, and maybe that's one way to start thinking about actually any kind of travel, regardless of what platform we pick. Because I think whatever we do choose, we'll need some sort of tailoring and some sort of experimentation to see where it goes. But at this scale, at least, you could keep the ship at a single scale. And once you've got the ship at a single scale, then everything else becomes relative to the ship. So the scale problem kind of disappears. I don't think it necessarily, as we've just seen from the picture there, if we went to some sort of pseudo-realistic kind of galaxy size, you'd still have a lot of boredom going on, even within the bubbles here, because these would technically be huge. And it also doesn't solve the other problem that we've got with not being able to look very far ahead. So even though we could artificially shrink this bubble down and make it feel a bit more arcadey, perhaps. Possible. Okay, possible. That's if we went down the action route. I quite like that idea. Assuming that we can't do these sort of silly fast travels. Okay, cool, Beef Viper. That's really reassuring. Yeah, the original post of the tweet did actually sort of follow it up with you have to take into account the apogee of a certain situation, and Saturn was doctored with its rings to make it look pleasing. Scale is your big selling point. Maybe make it so you have to move an entire planet. Sun's blowing up, and the game is the logistics behind this mammoth task. Building engines, tugs, lights. Now, that's interesting. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily go down these, I guess, a little bit like the Factorio route, perhaps. But I do quite like the idea of doing something simulation. And let me explain why. With simulation, I can have my galaxy, and I can keep it sort of realistic size. The one thing I can change to make it gamey is I could increase the speed at which things orbit. So we could have, for example, an Earth-like planet. We could have it so it does one whole orbit every hour. And the rest of the system is scaled to that. And that's just to make it so that the solar system moves around. But one of the advantages of working at scale like this, and we know that we can zoom right in, when we zoom out, we can sort of click to say where the ship should go. So we can send our ship from Earth, and we can simply click on another planet, and we can let the AI system handle all of the speed changes necessary to get there within the capabilities of the ship's engines. So the player is never really looking at one particular ship. They're always going to be looking at a bigger picture. And that bigger picture could be something like, hang on, put simulation. There we go. The bigger picture could be to grow some sort of space empire. Your bubble does have an actual name. It's called a sphere of influence. Right. No matter how you demand that it is consistent. Well, if we went down the simulation route, that's more probable that we could do something a little bit more realistic. Now, what I thought would be an interesting game dynamic with the simulation is that, of course, over time, if you set up, say, trade routes, so you've come down to one particular planet, and you've come to a particular space station here, and you need to get goods from this mining space station to some refinery space station to some other planet. So something a little bit different. This takes time. But since everything's moving around at different speeds, periodically this planet will be somewhat closer. In which case, the journey also changes too. So here we've got a very short time. And that adds, I think, a really crazy, interesting dynamic to sort of these Anno-like, like the Anno 1800s, Anno 1602-like logistic management games. Where your sort of bases and factories and production units and all that sort of stuff all change the position relative to each other. Okay, Oakenwolf. This type of logistics also have to take orbits. I know you like orbits, Ericsson. We will put in some orbits for you at some point. So, this is interesting for a number of reasons. Firstly, it means we don't really care about the scale problem anymore. We want all the scales, but we can coordinate the AI control in such a way to handle the driving of the ships for us. Maybe taking into account orbits, maybe just going as straight as the crow flies. Because I've always sort of anticipated in our universe you'll be able to fly across the sun. Your ship can fly in 3D. It doesn't necessarily have to be stuck on this plane. And then it becomes sort of quite an interesting exercise in, well, we need to look at sort of producer and consumer networks, and how do we transport goods, and how do we mine resources, and how do we build up different ships, and how do we get different ship types. And then we can also look at that from, what if we wanted sort of a multiplayer element to it as well. So you've got, could we sort of then design an interface to this simulation which can support multiple players, and I think there's more mileage in a project like this. Which isn't necessarily as action focused. There might still be battles, and you might still have alien invasions, in which case you also need to have defences and a defensive fleet. And I think I would enjoy doing that sort of stuff more than just a point and shoot game. "2D carrier command, possibly." Hi there, Red Tuft. Well, that's a really good idea, Source C63. Perishable and time-dependent goods. I hadn't thought of that. Okay, so perishables. I'm just going to make a note of that, so when I grab these later on. That's, yeah. So, and maybe you do have to sort of consider the losses that you will inflict. So you may have to think about some interesting formula to give us how much we gain depending on the time, and it could be a really interesting sort of economy going on. We could have that the user can place things which actually stay sort of within the same orbit of the things that they're transporting around. So if they do want predictable paths, they could plan those in advance for a particular transport operation. But the price they pay is they have to set that up, of course, and those cost resources to implement. So if by default everything will just always try and take the shortest path, but you could sort of plan better paths potentially. Yes, okay, maybe it's an interesting idea. Does this mean you need planet stations' positions to be deterministic, or will you calculate vectors? Yeah, I think calculate everything all the time on the fly, because it's simulation. Even if we had, and there's another reason we could look at this as well. I don't want to sort of get too bogged down into thinking in terms of ECS just yet, but with a simulation we could potentially have millions of things going on, because you get the advantage of you don't have to update everything every frame. Sure, you have to draw it if you're all zoomed out, but you don't actually have to update the simulation. I mean, no big simulation game does that. Per frame, it'll do 100 objects and update those, or 1,000 objects and update those, and then the next frame it'll do another 1,000. Because as the player, nothing changes that quickly. So you get that sort of, it's okay, it's fine. Atomic steam engine is the sum of all the planets orbiting, excludes the Earth, which is remarkably close to the moons. Yeah, so there we go. Oh, good. I'm pleased that that's checked out. I think that's probably one of the most inspiring images I've seen this year. Well, Megarev, that's kind of what I'm suggesting, is as time does move, the relative position of things in space changes. Now, if you've made a game about logistics, fundamentally the supply chains around the solar system, having those things move around, I think is a fascinating game dynamic, and one I don't think I've necessarily played before. I'm sure it's already been done, but I think it would be quite an interesting thing to work with. Apostolisk, hello. And as a regular, I need to let you know this very important message, that Danicron was first tonight in the chat, and he needed to make sure that we all knew that he was first. And rather sadly, he hacked an IRC client to let him know that he could be first. So there we go, Danicron. You were first. Well done. Yeah, so okay, this is another idea, Herbal Dance. Maybe it could use position in solar system for certain resources. Like, yes, so near the sun. It's a good idea. So power near sort of the sun. Potentially, or power sources. Maybe power sources could also be other interesting things as well, because you don't want everything to be sort of centered around one resource. You might have to have some other power source on the other side of the darker regions of the solar system. But now it doesn't matter. if your ship takes an hour or an hour and a half to get from one place to the next. You just sort of send it on its way, and the game will handle it, whilst you're busy doing other things. Is that you didn't hack the IRC client, or you couldn't hack the IRC client, Danny Cron? Oh, I'm going to sneeze. Oh, excuse me. Oh. Double sneeze, one for each nostril. So, okay. So I say, we're talking about this elephant in the room scale. As you can probably tell, I quite like this approach. That's not to say we can't actually borrow some of the ideas from here too. Because simulation games are great. I like Anno and games like that. And I don't particularly like combat games, mainly because as I've got a bit older, my reactions aren't what they used to be. I'm not very good at them. And because of the physical limitations of the screen and the things we've already discussed, yeah, maybe it's not the right thing to do. But having something like this as part of the lore in the same way, and that's L-O-R-E, by the way. Sorry if that's confusing to the non-native English speakers out there. Having something like this, having this lore of there is no light speed travel, that really kind of enforces the nature of things needing to move around and the timing. And potentially later on, if we want to research the tech tree, that yes, you can sort of set up these stargates to exist in your solar system. Potentially these can orbit too. Maybe that's one of the dynamics we have, is that everything will naturally want to orbit, but if you want it to resist orbiting, that consumes fuel and it needs to be refueled and resupplied, and that becomes part of your logistics problem to solve. I think there's lots of interesting ideas here. Maybe we can use planet mass to accelerate ship to make travel slower but cheaper. So you sort of want to slingshot around. Yes, maybe. I don't want to necessarily get too bogged down in the space mechanics at that level, because I anticipate that really the player will see sort of a cluster of ships. They will select them and go, right, you go over there. And maybe that's, if we start thinking about, well, how do we do these things really quickly? I don't know if I would want to play a game with that sort of level of minutiae trying to get the ships from A to B. I just want them to go there. I don't really care too much about the actual mechanics and worrying about like other bodies. That's not to say that maybe if you've got a really massive planet somewhere in your solar system, that yes, things do slow down if they go within, what did we say, the sphere of influence of that planet. That could be a dynamic that we could add in. And of course, anything like that gives us options. So what if you had anti-sphere of influence engines or something on a particular ship? Or alien vessels that come and attack don't necessarily have so that susceptibility. Or there's all sorts of things we could play around with in that respect. So I'm thinking a slightly different approach to the action game. It also it's a nice vehicle for me to explore a few other ideas as well, because I feel that we've kind of done this before. We've done space shooters, we've done asteroids, I've done top-down gauntlet style games, I've done that sort of dynamic. I just don't think it's very interesting. But this, I think, adds a lot more mileage. It's also, should also add, it's an excellent use for the GUI PegX, which we haven't really looked at yet. But I can imagine this sort of thing needs things setting up. So you can click on a space station and you can configure it. I also like the idea of having a planet where you own some sort of master space station, and to that you can connect different modules of space station that produce and do different things. And maybe that's where you start thinking about, maybe some of these are doing some computation of some description. I don't know. Not thought that far ahead. But in treating it like a big 2D simulation like this, we get all of these options. And I like having options in front of me. Will there be currency and do you level up? Well, these are things I guess partly will be decided by the law of the solar system. But I would imagine we do need some basic economy to give the player a challenge. So the player would have to have some resource there that is valuable and necessary in order to make and construct all of these other things. I mean, all of these sort of simulation games, fundamentally, there's always like 2 or 3 resources which are critical for everything else that goes on in the game. Well, I'm glad that none of you have sort of gone, oh no, that's all rubbish, I don't like it at all. Because I think that there's some mileage in that. And I think that's where I want to go with it. It kind of solves the original first elephant in the room, which is scale. Right. Good. Okay. If anybody has any sort of major objections to real-time strategy simulation, or opposed to action, then do shout out either now or on the Discord, or send me some sort of message, and let's get a bit of a discussion about where it's going to go, because I'm going to be doing this for the rest of the year. I'd rather be doing something that I feel a bit more interested in. I just think we've done action. Action's the easy way out, and this is a little bit more fascinating. I wonder if you should make something like this where I try to get small automatic ships to ship goods between different planets in different paths depending on fuel priority and travel time. Yeah, refueling and things. You oppose RTS. Well, is it real-time strategy? Is it just maintaining a simulation? Don't know. I mean, I suppose I don't think of RTS. Well, whenever I see RTS, I think of things like Command and Conquer. I know that there's more fashionable games out now, but I don't follow those. RTS for me is Command and Conquer. Or Total Annihilation if you're a particular vintage. But is it more of a simulation game? For me, like Anno, that's something I think I would enjoy doing a bit more. I think it could become quite addictive as well. Is it like EVE Online? Maybe. I think EVE Online's a bit more war-oriented. I'm less about war. Inky Boy, what are we coding? Well, we're kind of just deciding that at the moment. I like the sound of simulation-type game. Anno's more of a city builder. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. It's like a city builder in space sort of game. I quite like that idea. And there's the occasional threat, and potentially there's enemy factions. You are but a mere singular inhabitant of this solar system. There are going to be other agencies and companies and things. And it also gives us a nice little vehicle for having sort of community-based artwork and that sort of stuff getting involved in pulling this together too. What are doing at the moment, like work-wise and hobby-wise? Any big games or stuff on the horizon? Well, work-wise, I work full-time. Hobby-wise, in fact, we'll talk about that in a minute. Any big games or stuff on the horizon? Well, there's certainly something very big on the horizon, yes. I'll come back to that. That's all going to be the second elephant in the room. One faction will be called OLC. Single player, it doesn't necessarily have to be. Don't know about that yet. K-pop sim, hello. Danderstein, hashing out various ideas for the game from a creative perspective. I wouldn't necessarily rule out all action either. One of the things that I've often felt are quite weak in sort of the Anno games is the combat. It's usually always a bit of an afterthought. And I used to play a game, this would be mid-90s, maybe a bit earlier, and it was a Star Trek game, which sort of had a Final Fantasy Tactics-esque feel to battling. So when battles would happen, you'd sort of enter this grid-like world, and the ships and things would play this sort of game of chess, for want of a better. It was a bit more dynamic and a bit more animated than that. And I thought that's quite an interesting approach. So you have this sort of regular game going on, but the battles were a particular, different, distinct mode. Well, we could potentially go to something like a real-time battle system when it has to happen. Because I don't think there would be necessarily space battles happening all over the place all the time, right? In a situation like this. I think that's unnecessary. I think the reality is battles would be very few and far between, but are important in shifting sort of the economics of power around the solar system. And is there a way that we can think about doing that in a slightly more real-time way? I don't know, something to think about. Don't know. Will the orbits be only circular or elliptical as well? I don't know. Is this what the MMO series is leading up to? Well, in part, this was the inspiration behind the MMO series, yeah. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the Total War games, I must confess. I didn't like those at all, really. Yeah, if you're going to play Warhammer, play with some dice on a table. And you see, Morris, this is what I'm talking about. I think there's a lot more... there's a lot more lore, right? And that's something I never really get to explore or flesh out. Star Trek is not equal to good, says Alex there. It's better than Star Wars, that's all I can say. Right, so, okay, I think... budget, make asteroids. I think the simulation approach, not committing to it yet, but I think it's something that requires a bit more thought, and I think is better for the technology that we're developing. I'll have to mull that over a little bit more. As you can tell, we make this up as we go along. I'm glad that you're sort of chatting away there a little bit about everything that's going on. Oh, good. Right, so that leads us on to, you may notice, the S in elephant. So there is a second elephant in the room. And I wanted to sort of test the waters a little bit with the Twitch chat. Because it's a smaller audience, and typically it's an audience of people that really want to sort of be here. So I do sort of appreciate your input. And basically, if you don't know already, and you're not that active on the Discord or in the C++ sort of YouTuber community or anything like that, in June, my cloning chamber will be producing my clone. Which is to say that, JavidX 10 will be arriving. And that is going to limit the amount of time I can spend doing things like YouTube videos. So, with that in mind, it's my intention this weekend to sort of release a video explaining this situation to my Patreons and my channel subscribers and my Twitch subscribers and things, saying, look, my current schedule is a video every 2 weeks. Realistically, I work full time. I've got a family on the way. I've got to maintain my house. I've got to maintain the cloning chamber. And I've just not got that kind of time at the moment. So what I'm proposing is, one of the reasons I started the CodeZone series is I want to sort of normalise the idea that for probably the rest of this year, I'm going to be doing more Twitch streams than YouTube videos. And I've decided that I will be taking CodeZone to probably two times a week, and possibly a third stream as well during the week. And I think that one of those streams will always be Space Thing. The other stream will likely be Space Thing, but could be other things too, just to keep it mixed up. And the third stream could be a mix of anything or anything. Not decided what the contents will be. So it's more just that I'm sort of giving people a bit of a heads up that thank you for all the support and things over the last 4 years of doing this thing, and I'm not going anywhere, and that's the sort of important thing. I'm not going to be any less active on the Discord. I'm not going to be not doing these things. I'm still going to be maintaining Pixel Game Engine and writing code and all that sort of stuff. But at the moment, when I'm making a video, it takes about 20 hours a week. And I just, at the moment, I've noticed it over the last sort of 3 or 4 weeks, I can't keep that up as well as working full-time and supporting a family and fixing up my property, getting ready. And of course, once this child is born, I imagine that's going to take up some of my time. I've not had a child before, so it'll be my first. There's a lot to do and a lot to learn. So I'm hoping that that's understood, and I'm hoping that the fan base, when I announce it on YouTube, will be as accommodating as you guys are. So third stream should be me jamming a game. Well, it might well be. I do tend to do some game streaming on the Discord. Yeah, I think we'll be doing some more codes. And see, at the moment, it does take about 20 hours a week of my time doing One Lone Coder stuff. Now, that's all the stuff that you guys don't necessarily see. So it's the preparation of code, it's the testing out of algorithms, it's all the failing, and then it's making the video itself and editing it all and bringing it together. It takes up quite a bit of time. And doing the live streams, they could be a bit more organized than this. Doesn't, right? I specify the 3 hours a week, and they're the 3 hours that I can allocate to doing this sort of thing. I don't want to stop doing videos because that's actually my hobby. I enjoy doing it. It's what I find relaxing. I enjoy putting myself on the screen and making it work and seeing if the concept works and comes together, and I enjoy the editing, and I actually enjoy that process. So I don't intend by any means to stop doing that. I just won't be able to stick to the schedule that I'm currently set at. It did make me think, though, that one of the things this will allow me to do is more polished videos. So I can actually put a video together about more complicated subjects, but they're refined and they're actually produced and edited a bit more because I've got more time to put those together. Recommend buying carpet stain remover. Okay. Yeah, some of my time sounds a bit like an understatement. Alex says, you reckon it's going to save you time to whatever you want to do on YouTube? Do just live on Twitch. The reason I don't want to stream on YouTube is, firstly, the streams start to sort of contaminate the main channel, and the main channel is a nice catalogue of videos for people to follow. The other thing is, if I stream on YouTube, the audience, as it was when last time I streamed on YouTube, was the NES emulator, was it? Something like that. And there was like 800 people there. You can't interact with the chat when there's 800 people there. But you know, Twitch is a little bit more intimate. The streaming ecosystem is a bit more friendly, certainly for me to use. And it's just something I prefer using Twitch. If Twitch becomes an unsuitable platform, then obviously I can always go back to the YouTube one. Yeah, the YouTube streaming interface. The only thing I like about the YouTube streaming interface is it has that staging area before you actually go live. So you can actually test and make sure everything's working, which Twitch doesn't have. Or at least I'm not aware that it has. So yeah, there's a few things. So there were the two elephants in the room. The first was the scaling issues that we need to sort out with this project. And the second is it's probably become apparent to quite a lot of people that are regulars on the Discord that just recently I've not been quite as active and I've not been putting out quite as much material. I wanted to just ensure that you all know why. And the first will be Pixel Game and Engine. Yes, probably. Because I appreciate that you guys take an hour out of your time to sort of watch me prat about on screen. But anyway, space thing. So yes, the plan will be probably that Tuesdays will remain a space thing evening. I imagine Friday nights will be the other stream. Simply because on Friday nights I like to chat with the guys on the Discord server, and I think it would be good fun to sort of do the stream and then go and play games with the guys on the Discord server. I can sort of combine that into one thing. And the other stream will probably be at weekends. And that one will be optional. I'll never sort of announce or guarantee that one's there. But if I can sort of fix the schedule to Tuesdays and Fridays, then that's what I'll do. How do we get access to the Discord server? Oh, right. Okay. Yes, that's a good point, actually. How do you get access to the Discord server? I don't often have to link to my own Discord server. Let me find a thing that's going to have it. Do I have these? I have these links on our website, do I? This is weak, isn't it? What's the easiest way? Pixel Game Engine. Pixel Game Engine's the easiest way, isn't it, of getting the link to the Discord server? Right, where's the Pixel Game Edge? Oh, it's all gone. It's all gone horribly wrong today, hasn't it? There we go. There we go. There's the link. Useful links there. There we go. I mean, it's not like there isn't 12,000 people on it. You know, I should probably have that memorized by now. Yeah, sorry if you've been expecting a big Cody one tonight, but I wanted to sort of discuss these scale issues, and I think there's been some really actually quite nice ideas thrown out there. I like the idea of this perishable goods. I like the fact that yes, maybe you've got to think it's like space infrastructure is a really critical part of getting your things around. Maybe that makes the game very hard. Maybe there's added gameplay dynamics to that. I quite like that idea. Well, I guess Inky Boy hasn't actually seen sort of what we've been working on over the last few weeks. So I'll throw that up on the screen. So what we've got is sort of a realistic size and scale solar system, fundamentally, which we can pan around, and it looks very pretty. Now, if we go to find a planet, there we go. Planets, we've got realistic lighting, and we were sort of debating what we're going to do with this ship. At the moment, it's all very prototype and experimental, but it's just really to sort of, I wanted to make sure we could render these planets somewhat pleasantly, and if you zoom out, there's a sort of a depth effect to the whole thing. I don't think we've got time flowing in the universe because we were experimenting, weren't we? So I think I disabled time, and that's why we can't sort of see these nice sort of interactions going on the surface of the sun. Yes, that's a good point. Dannycron just wants everybody to know that Dannycron was first. Never forget this moment. Dannycron was first. I'm surprised you don't have a vanity link yet. We did, and the trouble is, when you have 30 boosts, what are they called, on the Discord server, and that's fine. You get the vanity link, and we had one. But then, as soon as that 30 goes to 29, like it's not even like 48 hours later. It is the very second that happens, the vanity link gets shut down. So, given that we tend to hover between 32 and 28 boosts, it just kept disappearing. So I'm not bothered. And there was all sorts of like small print involved in becoming a partner with Discord that I wasn't particularly keen on getting involved with. I'm not. People assume that everybody that's doing anything creatively online is doing it for the money. You know, I'm doing it because I enjoy the community and I enjoy the code. So people don't want to partner with me. That's fine. 27 boosts right now. Is that what we're at? Okay, yeah, we're missing a couple. It was at 30 for quite some time. You wish you could disable time, especially at the weekend. Well, let's enable time because I think it's quite pretty. Where did we enable time? Right, so that's in main game. We've got to have at least one line of code sort of written, haven't we? Where was time? We've actually set time to be. There we go. So that's where we're updating the solar system itself, and we'll set time to be. Well, this will be really quick. Right? It'll probably be far too quick, and it'll look a bit silly. Okay, so yes, there's the planet is whizzing around the universe. And so we can see that the planet had some nice realistic shading putting on. The planet itself has things that orbit it. We can actually pan to those. But they don't draw at the moment. They're just simply the pink circle. And the sun itself has these... I like them. I think the constructive interference-based sunspots. And the blurring on the edge is also sort of an interference blur. It's very nice, very pretty. I like it. I mean, the thing is, you can change Alex's name on the Discord, and we'll only notice about 4 days later. Yes, I've not implemented the superior Ericsson camera following system. Well, maybe we can now. Is this a model of our solar system? Well, it is. Well, it's not our solar system yet, but it potentially could be. Although I think Given the nature of where we're going with this game, we may need to procedurally generate the solar system. I'm unsure about that yet, but it's possible. But just to give it some variation each time you play. But the fact that we can now sort of zoom in and scale at this sort of scale, and then you can imagine sort of now you, with some keyboard shortcuts, you click on the planet that you're interested in, it kind of locks onto it, and you can click on the resources that are around it and see what they're doing, make sure they're up working efficiently, and you've got to go and mine things, and you've got to go and trade things. I think there's mileage in it. I like the fact that this space very slowly pans around in the background there. Gives a real depth perception to it. I like that. You demand a Dyson sphere. Well, Dyson's not very popular in the UK at the moment. I'll let people think about that one. Right. So, well, sorry if you've just joined, because that's actually it. So tonight's stream was about the two big elephants. One was the scale of which we actually operate in this universe, because it's been a difficult problem, and everything was becoming dependent upon the scale of this universe. Let's get a nice big blob going. There we go. Everything was becoming dependent on sort of this drawing scale. I think with every week we're just doing the same thing. We're trying to worry about what things should look like at this scale and how they should look at this scale and everything else. And I'd rather we start actually work on some game mechanics and getting things moving around. And yeah, see, there we go, right? So that's what happens with scale. We've got a good example of it there. I know the planet's moving quickly, but it's just whizzed past so uncontrollably that I don't think it's actually playable. I don't think there's anything you can do at that kind of scale. We should implement some graph algorithms there. Okay. No, we've got no rush, no deadline, nothing like that. I will probably want to think about all of the individual units and things in the game. So all of the factories and that sort of thing. I probably like to externalize those, and I know you'll all assume that Lua is how I'll do that. And you're probably quite right, because I think it's quite nice that those sort of things can be modded relatively easy. So we're not doing everything in C++ all the time. Right, so a slightly different stream tonight. I thank you all for joining me in it. I hope that the news about what's going to happen with the YouTube channel isn't too disappointing. If you do want to talk about anything at all, come and have a chat on the Discord server. Until then, I will say take care, everybody, and good night.